Hello YouTube, this is your Halloween video and it's going to be a two-part video. I built a nice wooden coffin for a Halloween, just a prop for Halloween, and it's out of our pine. So if you watch our videos of sawing all of our pine, this is what it can turn into. So I'm going to go ahead and get the camera off of the stand there and I'll give you a little walkthrough of what we're going to build here. So that's better. And it's going to be a fairly, not complicated, but there's some angles involved here. And before the end of the video, you will see all the sizes and dimensions. And if you have a little bit of time and are bored, I think you could build one. And here it is. This is our 1-inch pine boards off the mill. And you can see from rough to finish, that's the same wood. And nice little walnut cross on it. Creaky hinge. Piece of rope to hold the lid open. And John the Turtle, what are you doing in there?
Hello out there, YouTubers. Welcome back.
Wow. He come up from the mill to visit us. And I guess he likes it in there. It's nice and dark and cool. So all right, have at it, John. And the lid's on with a piece of piano hinge. And the lid is actually 2 boards. I like that creaking sound. And most coffins were nailed shut. This is just hinged for just a prop, and you know, you don't want to nail it shut. Or people actually cut wooden dowels and actually beat wooden dowels in to seal up the lid. But that just give you a little walk around of what it looks like. So, all right. This is going to be a 2-part series, like I said in the beginning, and there's no way to get this done unless we get started. So I think it's time to start dimensioning some wood to size. So let's get going. Okay, let's get started on our coffin build. So I had built a few of these in the past, and the old iconic coffin on the wall, everybody always asks, what's with the coffin? Well, I built a few of these for some Halloween parties and whatever else. And I also have one, I'll show you in a bit if I remember. It's actually a beer cooler I built, and I call it the baby Dracula because it's a nice formal one. So basically, I had solved the puzzle of all the angles. And if you're going to build more than one, it's better just to make a template and just keep it on file. So when I'm done, I tape these all together and I use them. Where are we going to get the wood for such a nice project? Well, of course, this is some pine, and I'm not sure what video it come off of, but this is off of our mill. And first step we're going to do is get everything to rough length. And what I mean by that is to get each board and sort of look at where the defects would be. And if you're looking at this, that would probably be just about perfect to do the bottom half. So we're going to need 6 pieces of pine, and we'll get them to rough length. And our 1x12, it'll vary. So what we're going to do is whatever the smallest 1x12 is, that's what we're looking at 11 3/4 there. So I'll be happy if we get it all dimensioned out to 11 1/4, 11 1/2, whatever it would be. So let's get started by getting all the boards to rough length, and then we're going to head over to the planer and we'll go ahead and get everything to the same thickness. And then once we're at that point, we'll have boards that will resemble this. And this will get used because we need a lot of stuff for the actual rim of the casket, and then the actual lid, we'll have to glue some stuff up. So let's go ahead and get some things cut to length here and get started. All right, at the radial arm saw here, we're just going to cut these to real rough lengths. We're leaving a lot of excess. So basically, I'm trying to get anything that's not flat out of the board. So we'll go ahead and just sometimes it likes to grab, but these are nice, really nice pine boards. So That might actually make a head or a foot. And we needed 2 4-foot pieces. Ought to set the stop at 4 foot. Take some of the cracking off. And that'll be for firewood later on. All right, that'll work. So let's head to the planer and get this stuff ready to work with. All right, at the planer, and we're gonna be doing 2 passes. First pass is 1 inch. And it don't matter if all the saw marks aren't out of here. You want this to look like an old-fashioned coffin. A little sticky. There's like 15/16. Basically, that's what it's going to look like when it's done. So we'll go ahead and meet you back over the workbench. We'll lay this thing out, start cutting angles. Okay, we got the boards to the same thickness. Now the next step is we got to get a straight edge on here. And again, this is a really rustic project. So we're going to go to our 8-inch joiner. What that does, gives us a square edge and a perfectly straight edge as far as the length of it. All right, next step is the table saw, and we'll make the parallel cut. So this way, this is straight, this will be parallel, and all the boards will be the same. Then we'll start cutting angles. So we'll see you at the table saw. Okay, we're at the table saw, and I've decided to make these 11 inches because we're going to put a rim around it that holds the lid, and this thing would just get too fat. So let's turn the dust system on here. Let's rip these all down to 11 inches. And they'll be all parallel. So. All right, and these aren't the greatest pieces of wood, but they're going to work fine. So the next step is to determine what piece you're going to be cutting. And this happens to be the head of the coffin. So we got this set at 40 degrees, which I did on my scale on the saw. So when we make the first cut, we're going to go ahead and get the length set. So you get your template. And I got flip stops on this, which is real nice. And this unit's made by Excalibur. It turns your table saw into a cheaper sliding table saw. If you ever watch Air Workshop with Tommy, he has a real nice sliding table saw, but I don't have that luxury. So whatever side you're looking at is going to be the inside of the coffin. So we got a little bit of a cup in it. So I think what I'm going to do is leave the cup up this way, and I think I can deal with it a little bit better. Again, this is just a Halloween prop and just a fun project. So we'll go ahead and cut our angles. And then we'll flip it, put our stop down. And once we're touching our stop, got to make sure that you're on that. There we go. You got to watch pieces don't come get you, but there we go. And we're going to the outside of this template, so if you did it right, that is absolutely perfect. So we'll go ahead and cut the rest of the pieces the same way, and we'll go ahead and label them. Just put an H so we know that's the head. So we'll go ahead and get the rest of these cut, and we'll meet you back at the workbench, and we'll go ahead and start putting biscuit joints in here and start assembling the box. Or no, we got one more step. Sorry about that. Okay, we got the basic box cut out, and what we're going to do is very important. We're going to put a rabbet in the bottom. So there's going to be a rabbet in the coffin, not a real rabbet. So what we want to do, now that we've got everything together, there's going to be mirrors, which I mean there's going to be a left and a right. So if we just start cutting rabbets at random on these boards, we'll end up with problems. So each one you want to mark, just put a X at the bottom inside, so we know that that is now the bottom inside of the coffin. So we'll go ahead and mark all these, and we're going to go over to the table saw, and we're going to cut a rabbet just with the blade. It's a simple 2-process cut, no dado heads, very simple. So we'll see you at the table saw. All right, we're back at the table saw, and we're going to cut a rabbet in the bottom. So the X we put for the bottom, I got the blade raised up, and this will be the actual rabbet. I don't got a pencil, I got a pen right here, but this will be the second cut. And this will allow us to put a 3/4 inch bottom in the coffin without seeing the edge of the boards. That will hide everything. Plus it will give a little bit extra strength. So the first step is to cut around the bottom of this. And that's step number 1. Okay, step number 2. Once the blade comes to a stop, we're simply going to eyeball it. We're going to raise it up until the teeth of the saw just come to the bottom of that slot. Then with an eyeball again, bring it over, and this might take a couple jabs until we get it set, but you'll see, and that's almost perfect. And there you go, there's your rabbet. And we're going to go ahead and cut the whole coffin bottom. Then that way the 3/4 inch boards will come in and they'll be hidden. You won't see no end grain. So we'll go ahead and get that done, and we'll get ready for biscuits. All right, it's time for the next step. Now that we got everything cut, got all the angles cut, we got the rabbet cut, we're ready to go here. Now, we're going to be using biscuits. I'm not a big fan of them, but they make a perfect spline, good for aligning corners, joints, and you'll see why when we go to assemble this thing. So the first step, what I like to do, just make yourself up a simple little stick, and you can see I had to play with it a couple times. This way, when you lay them all out, everything will be the same. So just hold that on the end, and let's just go ahead and mark the locations. Oh, I see, I almost messed up there. Now, this is some people call them biscuit cutter, some people call it a plate joiner. Basically what it is it has a saw blade inside of there, and this cuts a slot. On this side, there's different settings. We're going to go with the number 20. So we're set on number 20. It'll do 0, 10, 20, and then the M is, I think, for a micro, which is a real small biscuit. They do make special tools for that now. So I don't know how good you're going to be in the camera view here, so I'm going to just turn this thing down right here, and I'll show you how we cut a couple slots. And you got to make sure you're holding this tool nice and tight to the joint, and then plunge it in, and so on and so forth, and then you'll get your nice joint in there. And also, this thing has little claws that are spring-loaded right here, and this keeps this tool from wanting to slide. Once you push it tight, them little little claws on there really help. So they're spring loaded, and that's why the tool won't try to pull on you. So we'll go ahead and get all these slots cut, and we'll talk to you. We'll be ready to start assembling. All right, now it's time for assembly. What I did is just took the actual template, just tacked some blocks on my workbench, and this will really help. It's like having a few extra people helping you. So that way when you lay it in, it should keep everything really close, because these boards they're not flat. So take the time. And before this video is over, I'm going to try to give you some rough ideas. You can see the bottom of it, the foot is 41 degrees. We're at 10 degrees, and that's the actual miter, and we're at 40 at the top. So I'll give you some dimensions, and if you wanted to build one, this actually would, you could actually put someone in there that is, I think, 5'8" that fit in there. So, all right, we'll go ahead and get ready to start assembling here. So now we got a jig made, so we'll start gluing up, and I'll show you how that all works. Okay, it's time for some assembly. And again, these aren't the flattest boards. I didn't take time to join them or nothing, because this is nothing more than a little Halloween project. So basically, we're going to start with the biscuits, and you want to get some glue on the side it's going to go in to start with, and sort of try to make sure they're centered, because this will be critical in the next step. So we'll go ahead and do one corner to show you. Yeah, the biscuits, they can either help you or they can fight you. It's like putting a spline in. You could do that too. A spline would work very well. There we go. Now the other side, the same thing. We're going to put some glue in the biscuit slot, and also you're going to put it on the pine. And if you don't think end grain will hold, wait till tomorrow and try to take this thing apart. You'll be impressed. So basically, slide it together. It's going to give you a little bit of a challenge here, but once you get it close, go ahead and stand it up, and then just, you can see how nice it closes that joint up. And before we get this one, we'll go ahead and put the biscuits in the top of this. And I don't want to make this too long and drawn out and boring, but I'm trying to give you the basics of what's going on here. And I've had a few of these for several years, and they have not fallen apart yet. Once you put the bottom in there, that's basically 90% of its strength. And then we're going to do one with a lid on it, which is the little fancier version. And yeah, I remember back in the day with the New Yankee Workshop, they were big time into biscuits. I'm not really a big fan of them. Reason we're using them here, because we got an alignment problem, and this takes care of that. All right, so we'll go ahead and fight this thing together, and you just got to keep working your way around the whole box. And what's nice about them little blocks, and you want to make sure we're flat here, because we're going to be applying a lid to it. So work your way around, and then we'll put a couple band clamps around it, and we'll talk to you here in a bit. Okay, everything turned out really good. Just a regular ratchet, tie down, and that works good. And the blocks kept the thing from pushing out. And really, for how bowed up that this was just some, our pine off of our sawmill, and it worked out really well. The joints turned out pretty good, and you can see the Biscuit really works well as an alignment tool. So if you ever get in that situation, turn to the old Biscuits. I'm not really worried. There's a little bit of variation, but if you look at that coffin, it's going to get a frame around it, which just give you an idea. There'll be a frame that goes all the way around this thing and hides all them joints, and then the lid will overlap that. So we have to put a bottom in it first. So I think we're going to call this the end of part 1 of our Halloween coffin build. So I don't know, it's just a crazy project. Let me turn my microphone around so you can hear me. It's a crazy little project, but I think it's a lot of fun. I did this one up on the wall there for my kids. They had, like I said, the Halloween trail, haunted trail, so they wanted, Dad, can you build me a coffin? I said, I sure will. So, and it turned into fun, and my dad was actually joking around. He says, you can put me in that thing when I die, and well, Dad was a little bit too tall, and I don't think the funeral director would have got a good kick out of that. So anyhow, I hope you enjoyed this, and we'll be with you next time, and I'll show you how we finish up this coffin. Bye-bye.